Good morning. And thank you, Clay, for
Great to have
having
you
Jeff
with us.
and me and all of us here this
Great
morning.
to have you with us.
So my dog-eared copy of the book is in my bag. I've underscored a lot of it, but I want to start out by asking, for those of us who haven't even cracked the book open yet, right on the back cover, you say no more 16-hour days.
Right.
What's wrong with a 16-hour day?
Well, you need to sleep, you need to eat. Well, I don't know of too many business owners that could sustain 16 hours a day, but I would tell you that most business owners in this room probably are used to 12-hour days, and maybe not 7 days a week, but certainly 6. So it's for the person who is running out of time, and really, if you think about the resources you have in your business, time is one of the most valuable resources you have. It's more valuable than money. So how you conserve time, not only your time, but the time of your organization, is, in my mind, a very important thing. I know at IMES, we didn't want people to be worrying about things that weren't important, because that's additional time that's taken up by dealing with the system that is not productive. So the whole idea of productivity and efficiency and effectiveness is ingrained in this whole philosophy.
And part of that is recognizing that you don't need to set an example to get people to work hard for you.
Not at
Doesn't
all.
mean being the last one there to turn the lights out.
Not at
right?
all.
Yeah.
Not if they're committed to what you're committed to. Not if they're committed to your dream, to your vision, your values. But who knows where you work these days? I mean, I work at home. I work in the car. I don't do emails in the car. Or texting, like some of these people are. But no, I mean, it's not the amount of time you put in; it's the quality of the time you put in. And at the house, and the senior leadership of a company, it's really all about that. It's all about staying on top of things and improving your efficiency and effectiveness.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, Joni mentioned the elevator pitch, and that's what I wanted to ask you. I mean, you've got a whole book here, but what would be the elevator pitch for the DOC model that?
Well, the
Aileron's
DOC
famous
model
for?
is really just to describe the professional management system that we teach here, and it's really around getting your direction right. I'm going over here. I'm not going over here. I don't know exactly why I'm going over here, but I know I don't want to go there. Mm-hmm. But that's part of that direction, and the leader, the entrepreneur, the owner of the business has got to set the direction. Part of that direction is also the values, the mission statement, the vision. It's also the beliefs. It's kind of that framework that you want to operate in. And most privately owned businesses, those qualitative things are as important, in many ways more important than the quantitative thing. But it's getting that direction right and defining that, articulating that. And then it's organizing around that. It's organizing around your vision. It's organizing around your values. It's organizing around growth, or deceleration is another example. We've got examples of business owners right in this room during the last recession where they actually were able to lead the downsizing of their business. And I've heard stories of people who are so proud of the fact that they didn't have to lay people off. They had to freeze their job, but they didn't have to lay people off. Mm-hmm. But that in itself is a direction. And the motivation is, I don't want to lay people off. It's not I'm going to make more money, I'm going to capitalize on the recession, although many of them did. So, long-winded answer.
Well, yeah, I mean, I worked at several
And the last
trades,
one
so
is
that's
control.
a 40-floor elevator ride.
I'm sorry?
I said, in New York City, that would have been an elevator ride up to the 40th floor.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Joni has also said to me that the DOC model, it's a living system. You guys say you're always evolving the system, but one would think that it's a pretty clear cut what makes for good management. So what, in all the years you've been doing this, how has your thinking about what's good management evolved?
We know probably the best management book that was ever written was written in 900 BC. It was written by Sun Tzu. It's called The Art of War. And most of our business processes really were actually followed the military strategies. And so, there's nothing new here. I mean, a lot of the things we talk about are 1936 Peter Drucker or 1950 Deming. What we're doing is we're taking the best of the best and we put it together in a package that business owners can understand, that business owners can implement within their business. There's all these strategic planning courses and programs out there. But the problem that I had when I was coming up is there wasn't anything that linked between the theory and where I am today, which is my biggest problem is I've got a salesman that's not producing, that's worked for the company for 15 years. How do I get rid of him? Mm-hmm. You don't find that in grad school. You don't get that at the universities.
Yeah. Is your mic still on?
You hear me okay?
You can hear me? Okay. It sounded like it. Yeah. So in the book, you also talk about how important it is for business owners to get out of doer mode into thinker mode. And that sounded to me like it's something a lot easier said than done. I mean, everyone likes to be a doer and check things off their to-do list, but to sit and think, especially in this day of email, texts, and internet distractions, how do you acquire the discipline to be a thinker?
Well, some of the best doers are some of the worst thinkers. One of the things I learned early in my career is that you don't take the best engineer and make them the head of engineering. You don't take the best salesman and make them the head of sales. Because management is a profession unto itself. And once you get to a certain level within an organization, whether you're a disciplined engineer or a salesperson, an accounting person, or whatever, you've got to make that transition to a manager. And management truly is a profession. It has its basic principles. It has the thing that you have to do. It's how you treat people, how you execute. Those are all the principles of management. And I think you just have to think about that. The other thing that I found is the last key hire that I made was in a discipline I liked the most. It took us a while to get a marketing person in there because I thought I was the hotshot marketing person, right? Until I hired Joni Fetters and a few folks like that, and they taught me that I didn't know a hell of a lot about marketing. I thought I did. But really, I mean, you find in the businesses, and I run across this all the time, is people don't want to totally organize their business. They don't want to delegate that thing they like to do the most, which is usually either tinkering with something, through the engineering side or the technology side, or it's a customer relationship thing they don't want to give up.
And they've got to step back.
And there are ways to do that. And the other thing you have to do is you have to manage your behavior. One of the biggest things that I did, probably the biggest contributor to my success, was changing my behavior. The behavior that negatively impacted other people. And once I realized that 75% of the problems I had in my business were because of me, I'd been in the chair for 10 or 15 years, and I recognized that I couldn't solve those problems, I needed help, is when my business started to grow, started to be successful. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing, too, about doing and thinking. People think, the doers think, I'm not doing anything today. I didn't get anything done today. All I did was sit there and look out the window, come to the president's office and sit back there and, thought about whatever. But that's what this place is for, too, is for you to come and to feel comfortable and feel like you can get away from your business. And it's safe here, it's secure here, it's pretty here, it's convenient here, it's comfortable here.
Mm-hmm. And if these guys in the class feel like walking around the campus thinking, no one's going to say, "What are you doing?"
That's right. You're not sitting around
Wasting
the
your time
office.
here.
You're not sitting in the office looking out the window. Although that's important too.
Well, I did, I mean, you kind of answered my next question. The only thing I can think of that's harder to do than sitting still thinking about the future of your business is sitting still, taking a close look at my own behaviors. But that's what you say people have to do. But
Well, I think you have to have, if you have to have an attitude, and we make the assumption here that people come here, they want to grow. They want to grow their business, they want to grow themselves personally. And if you don't have the commitment to grow, you're not going to do this. It's too hard. You know, changing your behavior is the hardest thing I ever did. I mean, I think actually, the only time I ever got ulcers is when I was going through this process.
Wow.
Of realizing, hey, you dumb idiot, you know. You built this business, but you don't know how to run it. And finally, after, you know, a year and a half or 2 years of the board pounding on me, I finally got smart and hired a president to run the company, and the rest is history. And I take all the credit for it.
Yeah. That's the best part about being a business owner, right? You have a great line in the book: "A vision is a dream with a plan." It's an entrepreneur's mantra. But you say that owner's personal vision can become the lifeblood of the company. So how does an owner get everyone who works for them to buy into their personal vision?
Well, the first thing is you got to know what the dream is. And a lot of business owners did not go in business because they had a dream. They went into business because, one, there was a market opportunity, maybe they needed a job, they got fired, or whatever. So that to me is essential. Is you gotta understand the dream, and one of the things why I actually named this the Dream Room down there. It's a place where you can go, and not only you can sit there and think, you can bring people in, but you can also write, because the important thing is write your dream, articulate your dream. It took me until 1989, 1990. Actually, 1991, when Tom McLeod came, we really articulated the dream, believe it or not. I hadn't written it put it on paper. I mean, I talked to people and I told them, you know, what my dream was, of being recognized as a world leader in dog cat nutrition. Maybe not those words, but until Tom came and really understood what the dream was and how do we institutionalize the dream. We had a lot of confusion in the business, believe it or not. And once we got that right, once we got the vision right, we got the mission right, we got our set of values or beliefs, we got those in writing, and they became really the guideposts for us to move forward. But the first thing is a dream. In fact, when I meet a business owner for the first time, I'm always trying to figure out, where's the dream, what's the dream, and how can I help them achieve their dream. And part of that helping achieve the dream is the vision, and the vision is a dream with a plan, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you're not going to get you got to get the dream articulated first. I mean, my dream was I knew that long term I was not going to be able to work for anybody else. I knew that when I worked for General Motors for a year and 7 years at Campbell Soup, and every day, you know, running the risk of getting fired because I told somebody what I thought rather than what was politically correct. And I knew that I really was never going to be successful until I could run my own business. And then running my own business, I wanted to run it a different way, because I believed that the businesses and the systems that I knew of before were really deterrents to people being productive. But I could see it every day. I could see it, and the folks on the bottom line couldn't communicate with the people at the top, and the people at the top didn't know what was going on in the trenches. And I didn't believe that you could build a business and make it big and still have those same characteristics. And we were up to 2,000 employees at Imes, and I think we did a better job at 2,000 employees than we did at 20 employees in terms of incorporating them into the culture and having them truly understand what the purpose of the business was, and how it impacted them. How it impacted them. That's so important. you know.
So
It's not what I thought, it's what,
right. I mean, so many entrepreneurs and small business people start out like with that kind of idea, like, I am done working for these idiots, I can do this better myself. The dream is to be free of all that nonsense. That's why I'm a freelancer now.
yeah. And you work 16 hours a day most days.
I don't. But you know, there are several people here who are a one-person operation. It's easy to buy into your dream and follow that when it's I want to work for myself. But if you started like that and then you build the company and you're hiring people, that dream has to shift into something that all those other people will go along with.
They gotta
It's not
buy into
just.
it. But it's got to be something for them. It's got to be something for them. If we get to the point where in IMES, if we achieve the world vision of being recognized as the world leader in dog and cat nutrition, everyone within that company of 2,000 employees should have gotten something they wanted out of that. I remember our strategic planning processes that we had back in the 80s and 90s. After we finished our strategic planning session, which was usually a 5-day session, I would go around the room and I'd ask each person, okay, if we achieve this goal, these goals, what do you want? In 5 years, what do you want? A promotion, transfer overseas, more responsibility, more money, whatever those things were. And I still have some of those, by the way. And the perfect crime is when you achieve your vision and you achieve your dream and you achieve the objectives of the organization, the people get what they want. And what they want is not what you think. You know, like for example, if people are not oriented around recognition, giving them a big plaque at the sales meeting is not a reward, right? If you're humanistic, doing something at Christmas time for the homeless motivates people. If you're humanistic. If you're materialistic, it probably doesn't do you much good. You know? So you got to understand what motivates people, and you got to put into that system of rewards motivation. That what motivates them, and they've got to have something in there for them. And if you don't have it in there for them, it's not a win-win. And if it's not a win-win, it's not a team, and it's not a team that you're going to win a lot of games. You're going to win a lot of events.
Yeah. So how about growth? I mean, a lot of people are here, come to take this course to learn how to grow their company, get to the next level. Yeah. But I also wonder, when is it okay, or is it ever okay in a free enterprise to say, we're done growing. I don't want to grow anymore. Let's figure out how to just
Well, I
cruise.
think if you want to die, you don't grow. I mean, that's as simple as that. I mean, and growth can be a lot of different things. You know, growth can be reducing sales but increasing market share in one segment of the market. It could, but if you're not committed to growth, you're really, you know, you're going to get lost here, because everybody here that I know of is committed to growth in some way. And I think most people are committed to growth. You'll hear a lot about the entrepreneurs saying, I don't want to grow, but again, it's the guy or gal that's working 12 to 16 hours a day. No, hell no, they don't want to grow anymore. Not if I have to work another 2 or 3 hours. But if I can organize around and continue to grow and free up some of my time. I think one of the best things that I've heard from our clients here was, you made my life better because of the professional management process, that I have more time to spend with my family. One guy took a bicycle trip with his son for a month, never been away from his business before. Son graduated from high school, summer between high school and college, took him on a bicycle vacation for an entire month. And when he came back, he had that many papers on his desk. Everything else was taken care of. People could do it. Somebody said it saved their marriage because they were working so many hours and never saw the kids, and wife says, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up for this 16-hour-a-day, 14-hour-a-day craziness. So this is about a better life. And a better life is you can achieve that through growth. And personal growth is probably the most important thing. And we don't overlook that here. That's very important. Those of you that have been to classes and courses, you know that you personally are important to us. And it's your growth, it's your happiness, it's what you're going to do in the next generation, what you're going to produce, the jobs, obviously, that you create, and the legacy that you leave.
So another concept in the book that you focus on is structure. You need to have structure in your organization, but again, I think of a lot of entrepreneurs as being resistant to rules and regulations. And so what's the difference between imposing structure and burdening your team with
Structure
rules?
is the foundation. It's the infrastructure that you build. It's a thing that you have to create an infrastructure to have any kind of an organization. So that to me that differentiates. As far as rules and regulations, we had 3 at IMES. Be honest, do your best, and treat others with dignity and respect. Those are the rules.
That's it.
Now, there were a lot of other little policies, and there were procedures, and there were things like that. But if you were confused about what to do, be honest, do your best, and treat others with dignity and respect. And do the right things for the right reasons. If you do that, those are all the rules. So I think, and I would, you could ask some of the IMES people that were here, but I really think that I don't think anybody felt stifled by the system. I think there was a lot of IMES folks that when they went to P&G felt very stifled by the system. But I don't perceive that we felt stifled by the system. Brian Brown, you're here. What's your take on that?
That's right. I think we talked about it earlier. The concepts of the culture at IMES were very empowering, and Big P&G was a different set of rules.
But you got to buy in. You got to buy into the vision. You got to buy into the mission, and you got to live within the context. But the context is be honest, do your best, and treat others with dignity and respect. Okay. So keep the rules and regulations simple. Well, here's the other thing too. If you think about it, why were systems created, control systems created in a lot of companies? Because they were afraid the employees were going to steal from them, or they're going to cheat them, or they're going to rob. Do you know that 99% of the people in this country, in this world, are honest? They're basically honest. There's only 1% that's dishonest. So instead of changing the whole system for the 1%, why not create the culture for the 99? And when you find the one that's a fish out of water, or they don't get it, help them find another job. But don't create a system treating everybody like crooks. I remember when I went to General Motors, it took 6 signatures to pay a bill over $100.
Yeah.
6 signatures. All we did was buy a gross of nuts and bolts or something. And it took 6 signatures to get an invoice paid. Huh.
I think I told you about the last place I worked where there was an inordinate amount of milk disappearing from the pantry fridge by the coffee maker. So HR installed a camera, a surveillance camera, to find out who was taking that milk.
Yeah, think about that.
Everybody in the company was like, what are they doing now? They're spying on us.
Think about that. So I believe it. It's unbelievable though, isn't it?
Nutty. So my last question here. I love that your book is written in the humble spirit of letting others learn from your mistakes. And you have to read the book because there's some good ones. But will you share what you think is your worst management mistake ever and what you learned from it?
One thing first about humble. I got a lot of reason to be humble. Because I've made a lot of mistakes. Well, let's see. I don't know. There's 2 of them that come to mind. First one is I hired, when I built the plant in Lewisburg in 1978, I needed a plant manager. I mean, I needed somebody that understood how to run a plant. I didn't know how to run a plant. So I go to a headhunter, I find this guy, his name was John Polson. I found this guy, and he ran a plant. He ran a plant that was 10 times the size of mine. So I hired him. In fact, I had to pay him a salary
10
more than
times.
mine. I think he made $2,000 a year more than I did, because I needed this guy bad. So anyway, it was about a month went by, and he came in to see me when he said, hey, I'd like to take you out to lunch. I said, okay, fine. So we go across the street to the restaurant. I said, what's on your mind, John? He said, when are you going to let me do my job? When are you going to put me in charge of this plant? Well, you hired me to run the plant. When are you going to put me in charge of the plant? Well, I said, well, I thought you were in charge of the plant. I'm not in charge of the plant. They all come to you, and you tell them what to do. And I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs. I just want to know, when you're going to plug me in. So I said, well, what's the first thing you're going to do? And he said, well, the first thing I'm going to do when I take over the plant is at 8 o'clock in the morning, tomorrow morning, there's going to be dog food coming out of that extruder. We're not going to wait till 9 o'clock to decide what we're going to make. We're going to decide the day before what we're going to make, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, when you get to work, there's going to be dog food coming out of that extruder. And from that day on, Polson ran that plant, and every plant that we had in our company from that time until I sold it in 1999. This guy had the capacity and the shoulders. We hung 7 plants on this guy. And the more responsibility he got, the better he did. He was probably one of the best managers that I've ever met. And here I was, totally underutilizing the guy. And the second one was a story about the blind truck driver. We hired a blind truck driver. So it's 5:30 in the morning. We're running down Route 4 to Middletown, 2-lane road, 5 o'clock, sun's not up. This guy, Leroy is his name, kind of rubbing his eyes, and he's driving along like this. I said, Leroy, what's wrong with you? And he said, man, I'm having a hard time seeing this morning. And I said, I left my contact lenses at home. And I said, so? Well, he said, I'm legally blind without them. Here, we're running down this road. We got we're overloaded, got 8 tons of dog food in the back, running 55 or 60 miles an hour. Leroy's blind, and I'm sitting in the death seat. So, I think that when I think about my success, I think of a series of minor failures. And I think a lot of businesses need to continue to experiment. You need to have a lot of failures before you find the right formula. And there again, that's what the big companies will not do. They won't allow people to make mistakes. Our philosophy was afford every person the right to fail, every human being the right to fail. And if you give them the right to fail, they'll go way beyond where you would expect them to go, or you would allow them to go. And again, Dr. Deming taught us that. And what we have to do is create that climate where people can be productive, where people can grow. And if you're not willing to grow, your people won't stay with you, especially the ones that want to grow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Thank you
Great
very
stuff.
much. Thank you for joining us and for sharing your labor of love with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions out in the audience, if there's any. Right?
I had a chance to work it out, so I'm a little bit familiar with the business. And one of the questions I had is about the partnerships and strategic relationships you've established with suppliers, knowing when to limit complexity within your organization by using very capable suppliers. Can you talk about how you can minimize the complexity in a business by having good supplier relationships?
Yeah, good question. We had a lot of supplier relationship activity going on. I'll give you an example of one. We certified employees, or we certified suppliers, and our ingredient suppliers we would set up laboratories in their facilities that followed the same procedures we did. So instead of loading a truck and bringing it in from Springfield, Missouri to Lewisburg, Ohio, unloading it and then finding out that the product doesn't meet spec, why not test it, certify the lab, and test it in the supplier's location so it never gets outside his or her plant? And that idea of certification of suppliers went all the way to service suppliers. But however we could do, whatever we could do by working together to improve quality and reduce costs. And I can't count the amount of savings, the amount of improvement in profitability as a result of that effort. And a lot of times it even meant paying the supplier a little more so that they could make it in the right spec, that they would deliver it at the time you wanted to deliver it. So we looked at value much more than price. And our mantra with our suppliers was to sit down with them and say, I'm here to find a way to improve quality and reduce costs, and collaboratively, let's work on that. One of the best things we did in business was dehydrated chicken meat. And we were able to develop a proprietary system to cook chicken meat and deliver it with the highest quality of protein. And we did that again in the supplier's plant in conjunction with their supplier. So Tyson Foods, food technology people were at the table, ADF's people were at the table, and the IAMS people, technology people, were all at the table. And they came up with this concept. And it was hugely successful and contributed significantly to the overall quality of the product. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Jalen Rowe with the Jael Group, and I think I can speak for everyone here when I say thank you for Aileron. It's a special, special place. My question to you, when you said one of the main things is managing behavior, it sounds so simple, but it is so tough. What are the top 3 things that you did in the beginning to start to manage behavior? It's a seminar in itself.
Well, thank you for the comment and the question. I think the epiphany was I hired a professional manager, a facilitator, to help me implement professional management. So we go away for 3 days in a Holiday Inn somewhere, and we're in this room, and this guy starts asking questions to every single one of our people. What's your biggest problem? And wrote it on the board, on the white paper. The deal I had with him, with no contract, the deal I had with him is I pay him $5,000 a quarter up front. If I don't want to implement, he leaves and keeps the money. And any time that I'm unhappy with him, I fire him. So it's 10 o'clock in the morning and the damn room's half papered with this stuff. And I'm really ticked off. So I go to some of my guys and I said, and gals, and I said, is this stuff going on? I mean, this is a small business. You mean to tell me this stuff's going on? Oh yeah, this is really the stuff. Because I was going to fire this guy, and then I thought, well, I'll save my $5,000. And I came back in the room with a completely different attitude. And why was I so unhappy with all the stuff papered on the wall? Because I was responsible for 75% of those problems. I created them. So if you want to change the system, you got to change your own behavior, especially if you're the owner, CEO, and you've been sitting in that chair for 10 or 15 years. And I tell these people this. You've been in the same job for 10 or 15 years. 75% of the problems in your business are as a result of you and your behavior. And if you want to change it, you want to change your business, and you want to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of your business, you got to change your attitude. And that's the hardest thing to do, is to change your attitude.
So it's looking at things
You have to look, yeah, you have to look outside in rather than inside out. And you need third parties to do that. You need third parties. You can't do it by yourself. There's no way I could have implemented professional management by myself. Why do we provide consulting for our clients? Because once you hear this stuff and you go back home and you sit at your desk and you look out the window and you go, now what the hell do I do? Well, that's part of what we do here, is we try to lend you a facilitator or somebody that can come out for a half a day or a day to help you get started so that you understand, these are my problems, these are the things. Now, most times you know what the big problems are. You know, if you got a big problem, you know what it is. But what you don't know is that problem symptomatic of an inherent weakness I have in my business? Or is it just a one-off problem? And what I was always looking at later in the business, my business life, when I did a lot of traveling, was I wanted to find out what the perception of problems were, okay, out there. And why was I so keen about that? Well, I was keen about that because I wanted to see if there was a fundamental weakness. So if I hear the same problem from 2 or 3 different plants or 2 or 3 different shifts, I know it's not a problem, it's a weakness. And I better shore up the weakness. I can let the managers deal with the problems, but I got to shore up the weaknesses. Because if I don't shore up the weaknesses, my competitors are going to find them, and I'm going to be in trouble. So, changing my behavior helped my marriage too. Because when I was married about 40 years, I've been married 51 years, and I was married 40 years, I figured out one time what I was doing wrong. I wasn't saying yes, dear enough. So once I started saying yes, dear more often, Mary and I got along a lot better.
Greg Knox with Knox Machinery. In this globally flattening business at the speed of thought, internet age, do you think that business for people like myself in this day and age is tougher than when you were doing it back then, or is it just different?
I think it's different. The most difficult thing anyone will ever do is start a business. The most difficult thing anyone, and the best thing anybody does in this society, is to put your capital at risk to create jobs for others. But I grew up in the 70s. I grew up in the 70s with gas rationing. I grew up in the 70s with 22% interest rates. And we were able to survive it. You've got different problems today. In the days when I paid 22% interest rates, you could borrow money, but you couldn't afford to pay the interest. Now you can pay the interest, but you can't get the money. You know, it's the same damn banker that's standing in the way of most businesses. It was true in the 70s, it's true today. There are regulations today we didn't have in the 70s, but we had a lot more regulations in the 70s than we had in the 60s. I was not there in the 60s, but I remember it. But, so you're always going to have problems. You're always going to have regulatory problems, you're going to have tax problems. You know, it's just the nature of the beast. But you look at, during the Russian Revolution, there were still companies being founded. During World War II, in the middle of Europe, devastating things going on in Europe, there were still businesses being started and operated. So you cannot extinguish the fire that burns in the entrepreneur. You just can't. And that's why I think this place will always be here, because there's always going to be business owners. There's always going to be business owners looking for answers. And hopefully we've got an organization that can sustain itself forever. That's what we're trying to achieve here. Anybody else? Thank you all for coming.